Gillian Keegan, Education Secretary, joins us now in the studio. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Let's start off by playing the clip that everyone is talking about today.
But we will get a plan, and every single one of them will be done.
OK, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone ever say, you know what, you've done a good job because everyone else has sat on their ass and done nothing? No signs of that, no?
So do you think you're doing an effing good job?
I wasn't talking about me, actually. I was talking about the department. The job that I was talking about started in March 2022, so way before I was in. But what the department's done since March 2022 is taken a completely different approach. So the way school buildings are managed in the country is through responsible bodies. So they have all the responsibility for school building, finding out RAAC, doing the surveys, etc. And because of actually the leadership of Baroness Barron, quite specifically, as well as other Secretary of States, they and the department are basically taking on a full leadership role in surveying, getting a questionnaire to find out where RAAC is in the schools, surveying all the schools, getting all the porter cabins, getting everything, so that when we had these incidents over the summer, I knew where the RAAC was. So they had done all that work. So when we had the incidents and we could look at it, they have done, I think, a really good job.
If you did all this work, why is it that parents are only being told that there could be, let's not beat around the bush here, concrete ceilings collapsing in classrooms days before they're going back to school? I mean, does that sound like a good job?
So you have to work on new evidence. So, as you know, I've spent many years in business, and that was an off-the-cuff comment, by the way, as well, which was, as you realised, I thought the interview was over, so I apologise for my choice language. But the reality is the job that
I don't think people are upset about the choice of language. I think people are upset about the complacency, the tone that...
There's no complacency.
Why aren't people thanking us for the great job we've done when parents are worried about the safety of their children
I
in
was
school?
not talking about people. It was the journalist. So basically in the interview, if you listen to the interview, I don't know if anyone will now, the journalist was like, why haven't you done this in 2018 or, way before I was even doing this? So,
well, Daniel Hewitt isn't responsible for it, is it?
No, but what I said is actually the department has taken a huge leadership role. So they're not the responsible body for schools, but we have taken a role to really help schools. And I think...
They're not the responsible body for schools? What do you mean?
They're not the responsible body for school buildings is the local authorities or the Multi-Academy Trust.
But you're responsible for Multi-Academy Trusts, aren't you? The Department for Education, right?
Everybody has a different role. Right?
No, but that's correct, isn't it? You're responsible for Multi-Academy Trusts.
Yes, but
so you are responsible for... I mean, to be honest...
Everybody has different responsibilities,
But are you saying that you're not responsible for the safety of children in the classroom?
Absolutely I am, which is why we took a completely different approach that we've taken, and actually that every other country's taken, and probably we've taken in our history. So we have gone out directly to first of all, in 2018, we put warning notices out and asked the responsible bodies to do surveys. Then we put guidance out and said, look, you need to go and do guidance on RAAC and tell us where the RAAC is. And we didn't think it was going quickly enough. So we then took a more direct role, which is the first time we've done it, which is sending out questionnaires to 22,500 schools, arranging for surveyors to go in. So we've now contracted 8 building survey companies, and then arranging to mitigate, which is getting porter cabins in and getting the propping in. That's something that we don't usually do. Usually the local authorities or the Multi-Academy Trust would do that.
I'm not sure about talking about how the problem first emerged in 2018 is helping your argument. I mean, that's 5 years ago.
The new evidence that came over the summer, which is why we changed the policy, is 3 cases that came up over the summer. And one of them was actually in a commercial building. One of them was in an education setting outside of our jurisdiction, and the other one was a school in England. And what happened in those cases is there were ceilings that were assessed or would have been assessed as non-critical, and they had a failing panel. So that was the new evidence we got.
That came over the summer?
Yes. There were 3 different cases.
3 different cases over the summer. You were aware over the summer that children were in this situation, right? Ceilings, dangerous, parents worried about the classrooms, concrete collapsing.
Well, no.
You went on a holiday in Spain from August the 25th to August the 31st. Was that a mistake?
Well, when I went on holiday, I mean, to be honest, for the whole of the summer, obviously I had to sort out industrial action, then I had to do the A-levels, then I had to do the GCSE. So the first time I could go on holiday...
we should feel sorry for you,
Not at all. And I don't expect anyone to feel sorry for me. I'm certainly not getting that vibe from you. But what I said was... What I arranged was to go on holiday that day for my parents, for my dad's birthday. So it was a family occasion, we went. I said to them, right, we'd seen some of the evidence. I'd said we have to speak to the Institution of Structural Engineers. I've always worked remotely. I mean, nearly 50 years before I got elected as an MP, I've always worked remotely. I worked remotely on holiday as well. I chaired the Gold team from there every day, made the decision. And I said, if it looks like we're going to make a decision that we get something back from from these investigations, and it looks like we will do that, then I'll just come back. And I came back straight away. Well, actually, I came back straight away, but I had to wait a day because of the air traffic control issue.
I just want to show you the reaction of a teacher in Leicester when Sky's Becky Johnson played her the video of you from earlier. Let's just listen to this, look at this teacher.
Oh, my goodness. And that's our Education Secretary using that language for the situation. What I would like to say is, please, Gillian, come and see my school. I worked from the moment we got the notice of closure in order to make things work. I am horrified and disgusted by what I've just seen.
What would you say to her?
I wasn't talking about her at all. She's done an amazing job, and everybody in the schools. So when I said the people who've done an amazing job, it's the Department for Education, the local authorities who have responded to the questionnaire, which is 95% of them, the schools that have acted very quickly, the school leaders that have acted very quickly, the propping companies, the companies that have provided the porta cabins. They are the people who've done an amazing job. It was very difficult to make this decision. This wasn't a decision. I know that for parents and for children, it was a nightmare timing, but you only get the new evidence when it happens. It was a very difficult decision to make. I made the decision because I put the safety of children first, and the people who've done an amazing job are people like that head teacher there. What I am frustrated about, and it is frustrating, is we still have about 5... So we've been trying to get these questionnaires since March 2022. This is the start of the process where we can then send surveyors in if RAAC is identified. It's now become even more pertinent because we've now changed non-critical to needing mitigation straight away because of these incidents over the summer. And about 5% of them haven't yet responded. And we've written time and time again. We've set up a call centre to call them. We've written again today and said they have to respond by the end of the week. And, there's about 750 schools. And we need to get that because I want to make progress. I want to get children back into the classroom. I want to keep them safe. I've made a difficult decision. It is the right difficult decision. And I also, you said the language wasn't the problem. I also want to apologise to her because, like my mother, she also didn't like the language.
In the video, you also referred to everyone else who was sitting around on there. And I'm just wondering who you're talking about. You say you're not talking about teachers. The last 9 education secretaries
definitely
were all Conservative.
I wasn't talking about...
I mean, including Nicky Morgan. You talk about Nicky Morgan?
No, not at all, not at all. But
she's sitting around not doing enough?
Not at all, but this has been a problem since 1994. And, the reality was, basically, it was the interviewer.
Should you have done a bit more?
Well, there's always been an issue about, we know there's an ageing school estate in the country, and there have been successive, whatever party education secretaries putting in bids to the Treasury saying we need more for capital building. And I'm sure Gillian will know, all education secretaries or whatever party know, the Treasury never says, yeah, have everything you've asked for.
Yeah, on that, are you going to be pushing for the Treasury for this to be new money, or are you happy for it to be taken from existing education budgets?
Well, there's 3 parts to it. So the first is the mitigation, so the monies for the surveys, for the prop-in, for the spare classrooms. So we're paying for that for the DFE. The second is if there's any revenue funding. So some of the schools, by the way, the vast majority of schools in our country do not have RAAC. The vast majority of kids went back today.
Is this going to be from the existing education budget, or are you asking for more money from Jeremy Hunt? What is going on?
So we have money for capital and...
What's the answer?
there's three parts of it. If you want to know the answer, because I can tell you in detail budgets, the first part of it will come out of our capital budget, because we have a capital budget for repairs and maintenance, and that will be for the mitigations.
Okay. Is there going to be money from the Treasury?
The revenue funding will also come out of our budgets, because we get budgets every year for building.
What about the third part? Is that
maintenance.
also school budget?
The third part of it, we will have to put together how much refurbishment and how much of it is new money. But the Treasury has said, and Jeremy said yesterday when he was on Laura Koonsberg's show, that you do whatever it takes to keep
Sounds
children
to me
safe.
like it's going to be education, our pump for education budget.
Well, no, because we have our capital budget up until the end of this spending review session, and this will go beyond that.
Would you apologise to parents and pupils who can't get back to school?
Well, of course, I never wanted to make a decision.
So you would say sorry to them?
I said, actually, at the beginning, I did not want to put anything in the way of pupils going back to school.
Will you apologise?
But when I got new evidence, I had to take action.
Will you apologise?
I had to take action, Sophie. So
no.
I do not. Yeah, of course I do. I'm really sorry that they're missing school. Not many of them are, by the way. We've got 22,500 schools. We're talking about 156
thousands
actually.
Of children.
156. No, not all of them. Most of them have been mitigated. So 52 have already been mitigated, 104 which will also be mitigated. But what I've said is I want to minimise the damage to children. But if you get evidence of a ceiling that comes to you towards the end of August, and then you get it looked at, and it looks like this was it would have been non-critically assessed, and a panel could go loose, that is information you have to act on. And by the way, politically, it's not been a very easy thing to act on, because I didn't want to do this right at the beginning of term. I would have done anything not to. But I do think prioritising safety is the most important point, and I wouldn't apologise for that.
I just want to... There's so much I could talk to you about, but we're running out of time. But just as a takeaway from the interview, do you think that some of the frustration is about the tone that you take in these interviews? You know, when you're talking about, because there's a small number of children, or when you're saying that, look, you know, we've been doing loads, we've been working really hard.
I just like to put things in context. I just like to put things in context, because if you listen sometimes to the media, you'd think every school was closed with RAAC. We've 22,500 schools. There's 156.
We're talking about crumbling concrete that's been known about for decades and that is shutting schools because of a risk to life. That's what we're talking about.
Because of new evidence that came up over the summer where ceilings that had been assessed as non-critical, a panel... That's the first time we have evidence of that. Now, what we have been doing is we've been searching for all of these cases. That's why we found a case in the commercial sector. We found a case in school in another country. I sent the engineers up there to look at it. We've been actually actively searching for RAAC, because I want to get this sorted, because I want to keep children safe. That's the #1 priority. And I think we have been very proactive now, and we have put all of the information together. You know, it is very unfortunate, the timing, and I really, you know, it's the worst thing to you know, have any more impact on children. You know, they've had COVID, etc. We will work to minimise it, and we will make sure that most children are in school as soon as possible.
Thank you for coming on the show. You've fronted up to the questions. You've been here. You've answered the questions. Thank you. Nikki Morgan, you were Education Secretary. What's your take on this?
Well, I think this is every Secretary of State's worst nightmare. Again, doesn't matter, you know, which party they're from or anything else. You yourself have just said, Sophie, that this particular issue has been known about for decades, but it's been obvious that obviously you have an ageing school estate, despite the fact there has been significant new building in the course of the last decade or so. You know, it's just a fact that schools are going to age. And actually, I think Gillian has taken the decision, which is the worst thing would be for any Secretary of State to come on national television and have to say sorry for the injury, serious injury or worse, of a child or a teacher. Of course, with all of this, it's about the handling of this particular situation. And I will say what Gillian perhaps won't say, which is that the Treasury absolutely has to cover the costs of this now. And Jeremy Hunt, he said what he said yesterday about we're going to spend all that it takes. He has to make it clear to the Treasury officials. And in the Treasury, there is a spending team that mirrors every department, and they will be saying for a long, long time, no, we're not going to give this money for capital that everyone's been asked for. Now, I'm afraid, the answer is yes. How much is it going to cost? What are the surveyors estimating? How quickly can we pay to get this sorted?
OK, really interesting. We'll have more after the break. Thank you for being on the programme. Gillian Keegan, Education Secretary.